This is Ivory Penguin. He plays competitive Ultimate Chicken Horse. Today is the 29th of April 2026, and Ivory decided to enter a tournament that will inevitably determine his future place in the community. He already survived every single player standing between him and the grand finals. But waiting for him at the very end is AnonymousTesterBot, an opponent just as precise, just as experienced, and just as determined to take everything Ivory fought for. Victory here would secure the champion's rise, establishing their standing among the names that matter, and elevate them into a higher position in the competitive community. Second place will walk away with nothing. And right now, the entire tournament might come down to this. In just the first round of building, the two players constructed the main obstacle for the rest of the game. Two rotating cycles that have to line up perfectly. A timed spike platform underneath with just a tiny gap to squeeze through on the right. If your timing or perception is even slightly off, you die. TesterBot clears it on her first try.
Oh my god.
Absurd. AnonymousTesterBot.
Oh, squeezing through. Really taking her speed to the next level.
Ivory doesn't. He loses 2 lives early, waiting for the perfect moment to finally go for it. And then...
Oh my god.
okay, maybe it was still too easy. At least that's what Ivory is thinking. Because immediately after surviving it, he places this spike ball down, turning the entire section from a pure timing perception challenge into a perfectly timed precision jump that looks straight up impossible. To clear it, not only need the 2 rotating cycles align at the exact right moment, Ivory also has to jump through before the spike platform on a tight timer catches him from below, squeeze past the spike ball and land in the only safe position before the whole thing eliminates him. And then it gets worse. A few rounds later, a wire gets added, making the jump even tighter. And because this section is at the end of the level, Ivory can't just practice it for free. Every attempt means first surviving the entire rest of the map and other precise jumps just to get to it in the first place. By round 4, none of the players have gotten to the goal. It is clear. Whoever finishes this obstacle first takes control of Grand Finals. After some tries, Ivory finally does this.
Oh, Ivory is consistently landing to the...
Wait a minute!
Precision jump now!
This is competitive Ultimate Chicken Horse. A 10-year-old casual party game where you build traps and also destroy friendships more effectively than Mario Kart, probably. And somehow it has become one of the most insane and fastest growing competitive scenes I've ever come across. But I haven't been quite honest with you. The game you just saw isn't a pro bracket. And Ivory isn't one of the titans of the game. This was an amateur bracket. So if amateur players are already building and clearing things like this, what does it take to compete at the highest level of Ultimate Chicken Horse? I hosted a tournament together with this guy. Who's this? We'll get to him in a minute. This is Rookie Rumble 2, a tournament made for beginners, rookies, and upcoming players trying to break into the upper levels of competitive UCH. And the winner actually advances to the next stage in their competitive career. From this to this. Yeah, it's just a Discord rank. Let the tournament begin. Okay, this little chicken dude, that's me. And the guy next to me, that's past the guy 27. My first opponent. He was already more established in the community, but still within reach. At least that's what I thought. If I played my heart out. Maybe I'm gonna win. But then, in the first round of play, he built this. A timed precision squeeze. At first, It doesn't look like the most insane thing in the world. But that's the thing. Because in UCH, even a simple looking setup like this can define the entire game. And you gotta adapt fast. I tried to make the rest of the map as hard as possible, but this one single setup became the center of the match. The question was simple: who could solve it first? Past the guy solved it first. But after a few tries, even I managed to squeeze through and tie the game back up.
Okay, yeah, it's not that difficult actually.
For one single moment, I thought, maybe I can do this. But as the match went on, as the map became more hard, the mistakes became more expensive, and eventually I could barely even reach the final setup in the first place. Past the guy only needed one clean run, and that was enough. In the end, he won this set 2-1. That shows you don't need to build something impossible to win. Just make something your opponent can't solve fast enough. Game 2, I was already in loser's bracket, and my opponent instantly in the first goddamn round placed this.
I can't lose on this one. I can't lose on this one. No! He already made the impossible tech for me. No!
There are levels to wall jumps in Ultimate Chicken Horse. Some are easy, some are slightly uncomfortable, and some are insane. Some require actual tech, and one of these techs or techniques is called the NST, or the non-sprint turnaround. A very basic tech every player should know. The basic idea is this: you jump off the wall, release the sprint button for just a moment while turning around, then press sprint again to regain enough momentum to reach the wall under the overhang. Basically, just a fancy and better way to turn around in the air faster. And yeah, it sounds absolutely doable. It's not. Well, it is, but I certainly can't consistently do it after a few days of practice. This is one of the basic building blocks of the game. One of the most essential movement techs. Like, if you want to run, you have to walk first and also be able to stand up at all. During my training, I only mostly practiced quick jumps and squeezes, which are also very essential techs. So this barrel, placed by this little bear in the first round, I died. Like, it was my pure nemesis. I couldn't do it. And it wasn't some grand final monster setup. It wasn't some impossible pro level trap. It was a goddamn basic movement check. It was a tech check. I got tech checked. But because I didn't have the proper tool in my skill kit, the whole map shut down for me. Everything else he built, it's cool. It's cool. Cool shit, but we basically only played like 3 rounds because I couldn't do it in the first place. And that's the real skill floor of competitive UCH. Before you can outsmart people, before you can build genius traps, before you can even understand what top players are doing, you need enough base knowledge to not get destroyed by a goddamn barrel. So I went 0-2 in the tournament, made for rookies, for beginners. And the player who beat me is Bren. And yeah, he didn't even finish in the top 8. I wasn't even close to anyone in the bracket. How did this little party game become so deep that even rookie brackets could completely destroy me? I'm a god gamer. But the answer is also kind of simple. I was not losing to the players. I was losing to 10 years of community knowledge. Because competitive Ultimate Chicken Horse is not just a normal party game with better players. It is a version of the game the community basically had to rebuild from the ground up. And to understand all that, we finally need to talk about the guy who helped me set up this whole tournament in the first place. Bojack. This is Bojack UCH, community leader, tournament organizer, commentator, content creator, former #1 player and basically the CEO of Ultimate Chicken Horse, the competitive scene.
My scene is competitive Ultimate Chicken Horse. Definitely a bit of a silly sounding thing, but honestly, it's one of the greatest competitive games I've ever played.
I sat down for a conversation with him, and the more I talked with him, the more I realized it's like every Super Smash Bros. Game. Ultimate Chicken Horse had to be reverse engineered to even work as a competitive game.
UCH, as great a game as it is, it doesn't work on a fundamental level.
Which makes sense for me as a Super Smash Bros. Player, because I can't play any casuals. What is this? What are they doing? What's happening on screen, man? What is going on? For example, in casual Ultimate Chicken Horse, you play on default maps, which makes sense, because these are basically the only maps you know, and you use the funny items. You get also points for trapping your friend, points for being the fastest at the flag, and also, like, these coins are a thing. So, at the end, you get a scoreboard that looks like this, which is totally fine if you're casual, but competitive UCH had a problem. A lot of the casual chaos does not actually work when two players are actually trying as hard as possible to win.
Because before, people would play on, the default maps, they would use the default rule sets, with stuff like coins or boxing gloves or trap points.
But at a high level, all those things get insanely exploitable. For example, you can place a coin like this, and if the host has a somewhat shitty connection, he gets to move first and always gets the coin first because he has ping 0. This thing, for example, makes every single thing invalid. Whole map invalid because you can just fly over it. Or other items make the game too easy, other items make the game too long. For example, if I get a point first and then I stand on the sensor of this one-way door, my opponent can't do anything. He's locked out of the setup, and I win by default, because I can just wait out the 12 rounds, and if there's no possible way that he can circumvent this whole thing, there is no possible way for him to win. But competitive players hate this trick. And also, this item is banned. Fun fact, only 36 of 61 items are enabled in the competitive mode. So, this is gone. 2 weird cycles.
If I want to get past a setup like this, I need to wait until all of the cycles happen to line up perfectly. And if you're just using a couple items, maybe that'll take a few seconds. But if you're using a bunch of items, oftentimes there will only be one opportunity during the entire round where all of the cycles line up for this to be possible.
This is also gone. Be fast, and the rest of them can finish. Of course, this is gone. It's shit. It's shit. It makes the whole thing with shit. What the fuck? And then there are the default maps. They're pretty fun, but they're also so extremely open that you can't really build meaningful setups.
And you need to play on specific maps that are designed to make competitive play feasible. Like, the developers are handing off the level design to the players.
And that is both the coolest thing ever, but also kind of a balancing nightmare. Because if the players are building the map, then the map has to be designed in a way that lets them build interesting things without instantly breaking the entire game. But the community moved on, moved away from playing on default maps like they used to, and started making custom tournament maps.
The way around that is, the maps that you do make, you have to design them in a way that restricts the players in the correct way so that they can build cool things that they can interact with.
And this is why Rookie Rumble 2 had a real map pool. These maps are not random. They're designed to create situations where one placement can matter. Where one single barrel can end my life. Where one little squeeze can define the entire rest of the set. And with the maps changing, the rules changed too.
We switched to only using, regular points. You don't get trap points, you don't get first points or solo points, none of that stuff. It's just if you make it to the flag and your opponent doesn't, you score 1 point.
This is such a simple change, but it changes everything. It boils the whole thing, all of competitive UCH, down to one simple question. Can you finish the map while your opponent cannot? Competitive Ultimate Chicken Horse is not just people being good at a party game. It is a community looking at every single aspect of the game and asking, does this create skill? Does this create strategy? Is this hype? Is this bullshit? And the funny thing is, all of these restrictions make the game actually more interesting. Because the rules are not there to just remove creativity, but they encourage it. A good setup should be hard, but it should be hard in a way that players can understand, adapt to it, and eventually beat. And this whole thing brings us back to the tournament. Look at this setup again. The cycles, the spike platform, the spike wall. This is brutal, but it is fair. And you can see the answer. You can understand the timing. You can imagine the clear. You just have to actually do it. And that is where UCH actually lives. Not in random chaos, but in controlled chaos. The rules create the battlefield. The maps create the questions. The items create the pressure, but none of that can explain why two players can look at the exact same map, the same items, the same rules, and play completely different. Because once the community rebuilt the game, the next question became way more interesting. What kind of player are you? Let's go back to the tournament, because, well, I was losing hope because of the barrel. The actual good players were on another level. Ivory Penguin and AnonymousTesterBot were not just randomly placing hard things. They were playing around what they were good at and what the other person was bad at. That's the difference between a player like me and a player who actually understands the game. I play something and think, this is gonna be hard. This is gonna be so hard. They play something and think, I seen the way you playing today. You off your game, bitch. Your jumps, your squeezes, your wire crawls. I found your weak spot, and if I play something here, yeah, you gone. And there ain't no yellow paint guiding you through the level, bitch.
Everybody plays differently. You know, UCH is a game about performance, and performance is such a complex thing. You know, human psychology, human performance, there's no way to accurately predict what is the best.
Fancy words, buddy. But what he actually meant is, nobody knows what the fuck is going to happen. But that's what makes it good. Ultimate Chicken Horse is not just execution, strategy, reaction time, or math knowledge. It is all of those things crashing into each other, forcing the very best and worst in each situation.
There's no way to know what's going to happen. So everyone has their different ways of dealing with it, and their styles are so unique that anytime they play against each other, you can see the clash in styles.
And in this bracket, this clash of style was everywhere. AnonymousTesterBot in the bracket has already lost early against Frisk Dreamer in winners. But after fighting through losers and winning 4 consecutive games, she got the run back against him. And this time, she understood what she needed to attack. After building this squeeze, in round 1, she already started exploiting Frisk's weakness while building around her own strength. Frisk couldn't adapt to the setup fast enough. TesterBot scored early, and suddenly the whole match was being played on her terms. This is where the game stops looking like a party game. It's an exchange of moves like in a chess game. When AnonymousTesterBot placed down this squeeze, it was not only to score on Frisk early, but to pressure him into a position where execution was the answer. And she struck gold. Frisk couldn't do it. So TesterBot kept on digging in the same hole just to score again and again. And of course, not only building onto this specific setup, but building other tight squeeze jumps just to ensure her victory. But in grand finals, that conversation, that move list, became an exchange instead of a one-sided advantage. But the opening move with the cycle setup became the center of the match. At some point, the game was no longer about who could play the better ultimate chicken horse. It was about who could keep adapting while the map turned their strengths and weaknesses into a chaos-filled blender. You see, this wire was placed very unnoticeable at the end of the building period. And here is what the players see, and if you look close and you are AnonymousTesterBot in this perspective, you might still think there is no wire down there, but well, there was. And this one little tiny placement gave Ivory yet another way to score. But not because the wire was some insane super weapon, but because it attacked TesterBot's awareness. The pressure of the game, and especially grand finals, sometimes clouds important details, and Ivory knew exactly that. Strategies go deep. Even after more attempts, TesterBot just couldn't get to the finish, and the setup, the final setup, held, the pressure held, and Ivory became the winner of Rookie Rumble 2. He gets the prize, $75. Epic shit, but more importantly, he gets to move one step closer to the players sitting above the amateur world, the high tier players. In a world where this execution is expected, where every single decision in a match feels like a game of chess, a game of strategy. But if Ivory is only starting to knock at the door of the higher levels, who is actually waiting on the top? Who are the players everyone is chasing? And why are they so much better? To answer that, we have to go back, before the current titans, before the modern scene, to the old gods of Ultimate Chicken Horse. Every competitive scene has myths. The FGC has its gods. Super Smash Bros. Melee has legends people still talk about like ancient war heroes. And Ultimate Chicken Horse has Coldheart.
At the beginning, competitive UCH grew because of one individual.
Coldheart was not just good. He was a force of nature. The guy everybody knew was probably going to win before the tournament even started.
There was one player who is so comically good at the game that it kind of just inspired other people to play and compete and try and beat him. Like every single level that got posted online, he would have the world record on, every single tournament he ever played in, he won.
At some point, every single tournament he entered, the first place for the rest of the community was second. And that's insane.
There's so little archived footage of any of the stuff that happened back then, so he almost feels like an urban legend. But I was there, and I promise, his name's Coldheart. He was the real deal.
But every single god eventually gets challenged. And for Coldheart, this challenger was Kiara. Coldheart left the game for a while, and during that time, Kiara rose up. He became so good that people actually started to ask the impossible question: is Kiara better than Coldheart? And then Coldheart came back. Both entered the tournament. They reached each other, and Kiara beat him in winners finals. Coldheart came back through losers into grands.
And they play in grand finals, and it was a game 10. Absolute heater of a set. It took almost 4 hours to complete.
Damn. Yeah, back then they didn't play a best of 1 like today. They played a classic best of 5 with resets. But in the end, Kiara won. He became the first person to ever beat Coldheart in a set. And even that story has technically an asterisk, because in the old rules it was different. They played on default maps, and part of this controversy was that Kiara actually scored early and then just made the map as easy as possible so both players finished every time, basically stalling out the game. which is kind of perfect, because even dethroning the first and oldest god of the game brought light to the fact that the game and its rules still needed evolving. And then Bojack came in. But not just as a player, but as a guy that started to host events and create guides, bringing a new generation of UCH talent to the game. He studied the game so deeply, he literally told me.
I genuinely view my job as being the commissioner of competitive UCH.
And that's not a joke. This man has written pages and pages of documents about Ultimate Chicken Horse. He could probably not only release a single book, but like probably 10 about competitive Ultimate Chicken Horse. He spent years trying to make the scene more understandable, more competitive, and easier for new players to enter.
Because, that stuff isn't what brings in the money, but I love this game. I've so much passion for it. I want to grow it more than anything, so YouTube kind of just funds my ability to keep working, day in and day out on the scene.
And honestly, that's the kind of dedication we need in every single competitive community. Make your scene big. Display that shit on a silver platter. Because from the outside, it looks like, ha ha ha. Funny chicken game, but from the inside there are people spending thousands of hours building an entire ecosystem around it. Rules, maps, tournaments, guides, videos, lore, rivalries, and eventually the whole scene grew past its old gods. Coldheart, Kiara, Bidoo, Bojack, the names that defined the ancient era of Ultimate Chicken Horse. But Bojack told me that when he came back to the scene, something had changed. For most of UCH history, there was only one person who was clearly dominant. One player who played above everyone else. But now, in the modern era, that was gone.
If you hosted a tournament, there were 5 or 6 people who realistically could win it, and I couldn't tell you who was the best of that group.
And out of the chaos of the modern era stepped the new generation of titans. Morphin, Raito, Kreuz.
There are 3 players at the very, very top. Right now we have Morphin, Kreuz, and Raito. Those are the 3 players who, if everyone in the world entered a tournament, one of those 3 players would win it. Almost certainly.
And these are the players Ivory is chasing. These are the players the top of the scene is measured against. And the terrifying thing is, they're not all good in the same way. Morphin, for example, is strategic. Bojack describes him as expressive, psychological, and next level at building.
He is very expressive in the way that he plays, and the strategy that he uses is so beyond what anyone else is capable of.
Morphin is the guy who plays the first move in a chess match and already knows what the end game looks like. Kreuz plays with high perception. Bojack explains that in UCH, most setups have multiple possible solutions. Maybe you jump over, maybe you wall jump, maybe you drop down.
Kreuz's ability as a player is to look at whatever's on the screen, and he can see any possible way of doing it.
He wins because he sees routes other players don't. Bojack even said that he's seen Kreuz win sets because he perception gapped his opponent. Fuck outplayed, I perception gapped your ass. And then there is Raito. Raito is adaptation. He creates setups where the solution is not obvious, where the difficulty emerges from the chaos. Not one clean answer, a billion possible answers. And because he is so good at adapting, he thrives in that chaos.
Since Raito is good at adapting, he likes to create setups that don't have a solution.
And this is where UCH became so much deeper than I initially expected. Because the top level is not just who has the better movement, it is who can force the game into their world. Morphin makes the game about strategy, Kreuz makes the game about vision, and Raito makes the game about adaptation. When those styles clash, Bojack says, the game changes completely.
Like every time Morphin and Raito play against each other, my understanding of the game is completely reshaped.
And that brings us back to the question in the beginning. What does it take to compete at the top level of Ultimate Chicken Horse? Well, first you need the basics, because if you can't clear a simple squeeze, the match leaves you behind. Then you need tech, because if one single barrel shuts down your entire round, you're not even playing the full game yet. Then you need identity, because once everyone can execute, the real question becomes, what are you good at? And what problems do you solve better than everyone else? And finally, to stand with the Titans, you need to become the player who doesn't just answer questions. You need to become the player asking them.